Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the Plan Commission meeting for April 19th, 2018. I am going to call the roll. Commissioner Mitchell is absent. Commissioner Quain is absent. Commissioner Scott Berman is here. Commissioner Valages is absent. Commissioner Paradise.
Here.
Commissioner Laxpati.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jeff Berman.
Here.
Commissioner Matei.
Here.
And I am present. Let the record show that we do have a quorum. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome to the Plan Commission meeting. I just want to let you know that the Plan Commission is an advisory board to the Board of Trustees. The decision tonight is not final in any of the cases. The Board of Trustees will later hear these cases and look over our recommendations and our comments at their regular meeting of the board, which meet on the first and third Mondays of every month. Anyone wishing a copy of this report or to be notified when these cases come before the board, there's a sign-up sheet. I believe it's over there. Just give us your name, your address, and we'll notify you. Okay. Okay. First order of business is the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
So moved. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Minutes have been approved. Okay. First case tonight is case 2018-08P. This case was held over from the last meeting, and it is a special use permit for van rentals at 7855 Grosse Point Road, Unit G5. And I believe at the last Plan Commission meeting, their notice was in order. So do we have the petitioner here? Mike, please come up. Right to the microphone, sir. Okay. Could I have your name, please, for the record?
Yeah, my name is Jesto Joseph.
Okay, and your relationship to the, are you the owner or the operator of the business?
I am the operator of the business.
Okay, and you, sir, are...
He is my partner, Saju
Could you
Chakapan.
speak into the microphone?
Saju Chakapan.
Would you spell that for the...
Saju, S-A-J-U, and Chakapan, C-H-A-K-K-A-P-P-A-N.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Could you just give us an overview of your request and what you want to do with the property? And
Yeah, we requested this space for doing a small business for like renting the vans. We already have a location in Niles. We thought just we'll expand our business to Skokie too, because all our customers have easy access to this space. They can see the location easily. So I thought this space will be good for expanding our business.
what kind of vans are these?
These are passenger vans, like a 10 and 12 passenger small mini vans.
Okay. Good. And how many vans are you going to have on the property?
We might be having 2 vans most of the time, because we have another location in Niles.
Oh, there's going to be
We
a
have a-
satellite location.
Yeah, just like sometimes we get busy in the other place, so we can make our customers happy, moving them to the nearby location, Skokie. It's like only 2-3 miles away,
Oh, okay.
so we can operate in that way and make our customers happy too.
And currently, this is the only type of business you're running?
Yeah, this is the only business we are running. I work for a hospital too.
At the site, there's nothing else going on?
Nothing else, yeah.
Okay. Any questions of the petitioner?
I had a question. So the, what you're renting is one storefront within this entire yellow triangle?
Yes, G5.
And that one storefront then has so many parking spaces assigned to it that you are going to have both vans and employees at?
No, we usually operate from Niles. Most of the time we don't even come here, maybe we're a part-time employee. Sometimes if we need to send the customers to this location. They might be coming there, and we will just make the customers sign the contract and send them from there, this
So the-
location too.
So the office will be unmanned? You don't intend?
No,
to have-
sometimes we will come, if some customer says that they want the van on this time, we will go there, make the customer sign the agreement and send them from there. We don't operate there like 24 hours, we just go there per the customer needs.
How many parking spaces do you intend to use at this site?
This site, definitely 2 parking spaces. Most of the time, those spaces will be empty too, because if the van is out for rental, we won't be using the parking space too.
And do you have access to a sign that faces the expressway? Do you have any signage for this site?
Not right now,
So the only signage is for the storefront that was mostly unoccupied and the 2 parking
Parking
spaces.
spaces, yeah.
I have one other question. Are all of the parking spaces, it's quite a large site with lots of parking, are all of the parking spaces unassigned, so that way you can park in as many or as few as you'd like? Or do you have certain specific spaces that are designated to your use?
No, we are planning to park 2 vans in front of our, that's what we are planning to do now. We'll put a request for that, so whatever our owner says, or, whatever the city says, we are ready to follow the rules,
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything else, any other questions?
I'm just curious, when someone rents the van, do they not leave their vehicle behind?
No, we have another parking space available in Niles. So most of the time we park all over the vans in Niles location, and customers are not allowed to park their vans in our location.
Are these commercial rentals, or are they individuals renting them? Is it businesses renting them or individuals?
Yeah, we both are running the business.
No, I know, but who's your typical customer? Is it another business that's renting it, or?
No, anybody can rent. We have a website, so people can go on the website and book the vans online, just like enterprise, but a small business, just like enterprise.
So if I want to rent, and forgive me, but I'm having a hard time understanding, so if I wanted to rent one of your vans, I go to Niles, fill out the paperwork, leave my car there, but then you drive me to Skokie to get the van that I'm getting?
No, if you want to rent the van, you call us, you come there, you pick up the van, and you have to take your car. That's your responsibility to take your car. We don't have any responsibility for the customers' vehicles.
Okay, so 2 people come to pick up the van they rent, the driver and someone that's going to take your vehicle back?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
thank you so much.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there anything else you wish to offer before I ask the staff to give us a report? If not, then sit down and we'll have the staff give the report, okay?
All right, thank you so much for your time.
Please sit down, and we'll have you come back up.
I'd like to request that the report be accepted into the record as presented.
Request granted, granted.
So the parking requirement for a rental facility is 1 space per vehicle being rented, and then 1 space, I believe, per, was it, it's 1,000 square feet, so it's, what do we have it here? Well, they're required to have 2 total employee parking spaces. I think it's 3 per 1,000, and they're at 738 square feet. So there's going to be 2 spaces per employees, 2 spaces for vans. You asked a question about the designation of spaces. We will have 2 spaces designated for the van parking only. At the site right now, I believe Orkin Pest Control has some assigned spaces for its vans and its employees. And then Raybeck at the north end up here, this is the management company which used to own the property. They've got a few assigned spaces for their employees up at this end here. The building is vacant. There's many spaces that are vacant right now. At the present time, there's 69 spaces required for the current tenants. We've got a total of 133 parking spaces. There is a near-term plan to renovate this entire building. and do some landscaping, do some signage, do some facade work in the hopes to get some more tenants in and possibly expand the building a little bit, not expand the building, but open up some of the tenant spaces into larger occupiable spaces. So as tenants come in, we'll see how the parking requirement is for the overall building. But this is a very small use in comparison to what has been there, such as the BBJ was there, the laundry plant. They've since moved to Niles. So this is a small facility. They will not be working from this site at all times. This is just like a branch office of the business. So we're comfortable with the parking provided for the
Okay. Good.
proposed use.
Any questions of staff? Yes?
That's correct. So we are only allowed to do if there is extra parking at the site. So we can designate those 2 spaces for that use. And right now, there is excess parking at the site.
It's a reminder that we don't usually allow the designation of spaces in a small lot, but when we have excess spaces, like at Old Orchard or other places,
Right.
then we can designate certain in an otherwise universal lot.
In a multi-tenant facility, correct.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Okay, thank you, Mike. Can the petitioner, would you please come back up? Now, you've read the staff report, right? And you looked at all the recommended conditions,
Yes,
and you're able to comply with the conditions?
yes.
Okay, do you have any further questions?
No,
Okay. Oh, thank you.
thank you so
All
much.
right, at this time, is there anybody in the audience who has a question? You can sit down. Please. Yeah. At this time, is there anybody in the audience who has a question or comment on this case alone? Okay, none? Okay. Then I am open for a motion. Commissioner Berman?
Yes.
Motion to approve
Yes, motion to approve as presented.
as presented. Do I have a second? The other Berman, okay. The Bermans, all right. All right, call for the vote. Commissioner Mitchell is absent, Commissioner Quinn is absent, Commissioner Scott Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Velazquez is absent, Commissioner Paradise.
Aye.
Commissioner Luxpati. Aye. Commissioner Jeff Berman. Aye. Commissioner Matei. Aye. And I'll vote aye. Motion is approved. Again, this still has to go before the board before you get final approval, but good luck to you. Okay, next case. We have a series of cases here. Case 2017-52P, 2017-53P, 2017-54P, 2017-55P, 2017-56P, and 2017-57P. I'm going to ask, please come up. And can I have your name and your representation?
Absolutely. My name's Michael Goldman. I'm Vice President and General Counsel of Waterway Gas and Wash Company.
Okay, could you raise your right hand, sir?
Absolutely.
And is there anybody in your group that will probably testify or give testimony tonight?
There's a chance that Henry Dubinsky, who's the founder of Waterway, and Andrew.
Can we ask them to stand up
yeah,
and I'll
one-
swear everybody in?
And we also have our civil engineer here, just
Those who
in
can
case there's anything
stand.
for him.
All right. Do you all affirm that the truth, testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Councilors, the notice in order.
Mr. Chairman, notice is proper and correct.
Okay. So if it's okay with you, we're going to clump all the cases together, and you just go ahead and make your presentation.
Yes. If I could see close up, I'd be much better. Okay.
Okay.
How do I do the full view?
The full view is like the projector screen.
Okay, those in the audience, if you recall from the last case, our procedure is to have the petitioner present their case,
And how do I get to the next?
then I'll ask the staff to give its
Okay.
report, read its report into the record, and then petitioner will come back up, and they can further question the staff's report or amend the staff's report, and then after which I will open up the floor to anyone in the audience who wish to comment or have a question on this case. Please, proceed, I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks a lot for having us here today. Again, my name's Mike Goldman. I'm from Waterway Gas and Wash. I am really going to do my best to, people used to say I got paid by the word. I'm not going to do that tonight. We have a series, as you all know, of cases that are related. 30 seconds on Waterway. We're about a 50-year-old company. We're based in St. Louis. I made sure our Cardinals didn't come back today because I didn't want anyone holding that against me. That's because that's all I can do. We have a, okay, and I want to use this. Okay, good. Full service car wash and convenience store and gasoline. We picked Skokie because we think it's a great community. So we're here today for a series of 5 separate cases. First one is the zoning change. It's currently a B1. We're requesting that it goes to a B3. It's obviously the site, just to orient everyone, it's the funeral home. So that's the first thing, is a zoning for our use. And in the B3, as per the staff report, and we reviewed all the reports, and they all look appropriate to us and things that we can comply with. I believe what's in the staff report makes perfect sense. Then the second is subdivision. We have 14, it's currently 14 parcels, which doesn't, it's obviously that needs to be cleaned up. So upon the zoning change, there's the subdivision to take those 14 existing parcels and turn them into one parcel. And that's again our second request. Then the site plan approval, I will talk a tiny bit more about that. Here's our site, site facts. Okay, and then the site plan. What we are showing is that on Skokie Boulevard, we've got a right in, right out, no left in. We've got our 6 fuel dispensers. And then on the, let's see, perfect. Those are the fuel pumps. Car washes would enter through here. They come out here. They get their vacuums done here. Oh, okay. Thank you. That's even better. Oh, great. Skokie, Church, Grosse Point, just to orient everybody. Right in, right out, fuel dispensers, car washes would come in here as far as the site plan. This is where the cars get vacuumed. Grosse Point, and IDOT, we're going to make this a 3/4 on Grosse Point, 3/4. So in, left in, right out only. That's what IDOT has requested of us. There was a question if we were asking for a left in here off of Skokie Boulevard, and we are not. That's just a right in only. And the site, for lack of a better term, lays out really beautifully for our use. It's obviously an odd-shaped site. It's not something that you see every day, and it's probably one of the reasons why we have 14 parcels. But it really works extremely well for us. So we'll make the request on the site plan approval. And again, as far as with the site plan approval, the conditions, those all are things that Waterway is happy to comply with, and they make sense. Then we get to the special use permit. This is a, I don't know that I even need a slide on this one. So as far as special use permit, you need a special use permit at the B3 for the automotive and fuel station, and so that's our request. One note that on the special use permit is that the Shell up the street, I think everyone probably is aware, is going to be closing down. So there is going to be a limitation on fuel in the area, at least much more limited than it is today. And so, and as far as the actual parts of the special use permit, the submittal, we understand, of course, that there are all the several steps that we need to take, and we offered that in our written materials. But as far as the character of the neighborhood, we believe this is a positive impact in the neighborhood rather than a closed-down funeral home, that this is a business where we are going to have employees who are going to know your name, who are going to give you a great service, and I suggest it'll be a positive impact having a business rather than an empty lot. On surrounding property value, the studies that we have done and some that we've participated in show that our use actually does not reduce property value. In fact, it may increase property value. I can't promise that to anybody, but that is what our studies have shown and other outside studies that we didn't participate in. Traffic conditions, we did do a traffic study. We required to give that to IDOT for the changes, and it's really a very limited change. This curb cut was closer to the intersection for safety. IDOT requested that we move it further north, so we did that, and it's probably where we wanted to move it anyway. And they also, this was a full turn in curb cut here, and they asked us to make it that three-way, three quarters, and so we did that also. And the traffic study would show that most of our customers, we are reaping what goes by already on Skokie Boulevard. That is our business. It's drive-by business. We would love to say, customers will drive 10 miles for our car wash, and some of them do, but numbers-wise and what the actual counts will tell you is that all but a smaller percentage of our customers are people who happen to be in the area, make it a part of their trip. They're going wherever they're going on their errands, and they add us into their trip. The numbers that we showed is it's about during peak hours, AM, PM, and weekend peak hours, we're adding 1% to 2%, at the most a 3.5% new cars to these streets. So these are heavily trafficked streets, and it's a very insignificant impact. Finally, on utilities, stormwater termination, all those factors, obviously, part of the conditions here, we'll have to use best practices, go through the engineering on all of those things. That's something we're used to doing, we've done many times. And obviously, we won't have our construction approvals without that. Finally, parking determination. I think based on what staff has said, there is a parking determination based on the Turtle Wax, and it showed that we needed 35 spaces, and that's what we've provided is 35 spaces. And that, so we were able to hit that number that was expected of us. And then finally, one thing I would note is we did get notice that some of the residents next door had some questions over at the 9240 Grosse Pointe Road, the apartment complex there, not the apartment, the homeowners association over there had some questions. We did meet with them today with the manager of the homeowners association, this gentleman here, and about 7 or 8 other folks who were interested. And I think we had a very productive conversation. I think that I'll let them speak for themselves. I don't want to speak for them, but I think we did a pretty good job answering the questions and concerns that came to us. And there was also another comment in here about some landscape that we had shown that might not be on our property, and the owner of that landscape, or owner of that property is here, and we just had a brief conversation prior to our meeting, and we discussed potentially having us put some landscape on her property and maintain it at our cost. It's a very small strip. It is right there, so we'll probably have to just go ahead and along this here and right there. So we'll go ahead and get the surveyor to stake it out and show us exactly who's who and what's what. But we are happy as long as the neighboring landowner is happy to put in the landscape as we're shown. It's a little tired right there now, so as part of the entire improvement of the whole triangle area. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I know I ran through everything quickly. Maybe not quickly enough for some, but I tried to run through everything quickly. I can go way into details on any particular question. But I know the staff reports were very thorough, and I didn't want to just repeat what
I have a question about your services that you offer.
Yes.
Are you offering detailing?
We do not offer traditional detailing. You can't leave your car.
Okay, that's
and-
that's
yeah,
what I wanted to know.
Yeah. We do have in our site up in Northbrook, we have a detail center where you can
Yeah,
leave your car.
I saw that one up there. I was
Yeah.
wondering if we can have that here.
Yeah. No, we don't. And what we've done typically is we have one detail center in every market, and then we can move the people who want the detail. We can valet it up there, they can drive it up there, however it works for them.
Okay, my other question is with traffic. Now, if you're northbound on Skokie Boulevard,
Yeah.
will you be able to enter the facility?
No,
I didn't think so. So you'd have to.
you can, well,
You gotta do it this way.
yes, not going, you'd have to go over.
Coming off Grosse
around
Point.
and up and in, yeah.
Okay.
So, but there's no left in is what I thought.
So let's say they come in off of Grosse Point, then they have to, if they don't get gas, then they have to meander through the gas islands? Is that what they have to do?
So if they don't get, if someone comes in from this entrance from the church, they would have to come over here if they want gas, over here if they're looking for a wash.
Okay.
In our experience, our projections and our estimates are all based on the southbound traffic.
I was recently in the St. Louis area, and I was in Chesterfield.
Yes.
And there's a location pretty close to Chesterfield there.
We've got one in
It was a
Chesterfield?
very tight site.
Yes.
And I was watching cars come in and out. They would seem like they had a hard time meandering around the gas islands and through the driveway there. But then again, admittedly, that's a very small site there.
So I would call that being really nice to ourselves, a legacy site. So that was that's a site that we've had for many years. We're actually doing
So
a
I
lot
was
of it.
told, yes.
Yeah, as I probably could see from the look of the building, it was dated. But it's a smaller site. The footprint, it doesn't lay out very well. It doesn't lay out nearly as well as this. And I suspect on a busy day, it would look a little crazy. The other thing is, most of those customers, not to get too into the weeds, they've been coming there for 10, 15 years.
Yes.
And they know where they're going. And that's what the customers learn. But this is a whole lot simpler.
Okay. My other question is, now, the noise level from the blowers.
Yes.
Now, you're proposing a site up in Lake Forest, and there you're building a tunnel
Yes.
to mitigate the noise. Do you think you're gonna have a problem here with that noise?
No. I don't. There are many other sort of issues here, but in that particular site, the blowers will be at the end of the tunnel, and that is
Facing the 7-Eleven.
it's facing down here, and it's what is louder than the blowers is the vacuums, because the vacuums are constant, and we've taken the vacuums. So yeah, here's the exit shooting at the 7-Eleven. We've taken the vacuum, the producer, what I always call the business end of the vacuums, and we have that inside the building rather than out open. So that cuts down the general site noise dramatically. But then where we have the sound moving from the dryers, the blowers, is it's moving sort of into that 7-Eleven, not up towards the folks up here.
Okay. Any questions of the petitioner? Commissioner Matei?
I'm curious about the queuing line. Can you show me when we're at our busiest, how that queue is going to work?
Yeah. So, thank you. We have right here 3 lines that go in. 2 of them have these little gates, and that's for people who aren't going to get out of their car, who are going to pay outside. The third doesn't have a gate. The difference on the queue between us and a lot of traditional car washes is we don't do anything here at the entrance except either get you out or put you on. We don't vacuum. We don't do the prep. We don't do anything. Our whole goal is to move you quickly right into here, into the tunnel, and you either stay in the car or get out. Now, as far as numbers of cars that queue, it is very unusual for us to stack far because we've got these 3 lanes, which is more than we have at most stores. Excuse me. And it is typically on a busy day, if you have 4 total cars in queue, that's a lot. So we do have the backup space here. In a worst case scenario, let's say something's broken, which doesn't happen often, but let's say that, we've got queuing space for at least 4 to 6 cars over here, and we could always wrap it around here. The concern, I would assume, is, hey, are you going to somehow queue them back into the main road? That would be something that we just don't do and don't allow. And really, in our experience, okay, well, here we go. We got this. So we've got this amount of space and this amount of cars if need be. We never, and if you've been to our sites, we never have this many cars in line here because we're able to move them up quickly.
From the time a car enters the car wash to the time he exits, what's the time?
So from the time it's actually on the conveyor?
Yes.
Okay. From the time the car is actually on the conveyor, it can depend because if you're busier, you can make the conveyor faster. If you're slower, you make it a little slower. But it's really about 1.5 minutes.
So it's not dependent if the customer chooses to get a coating or underwash or anything else, or a wheel wash?
No, the conveyor, let's say you get an extra service, an underwash, the car moves at the same rate than if you didn't get that service. It's just we flick a computer flicks a switch that has that come on.
And how many cars can you actually have in the tunnel?
This tunnel, this is 110 or 12 foot tunnel, and typically that's going to be about 6 cars at the most. That's not typically how many you're going to have in there. It's usually going to be closer to about 4 on a busy day, but you could stack up with a car being average of 18 to 20 feet. So you got 1 loading, 1 getting off. But typically you're going to see about 3 or 4.
So what's the spacing between cars?
You don't have to have more than about 2 feet between cars. The way the conveyor works is they can almost, it's difficult. You don't want them inches from each other for a lot of reasons.
Well, you can't wash the front end.
Yeah, exactly. But they can, being 2.5 to 3 feet from each other is plenty of space for us to get the work done. Again, that's only in the highest volume times. It typically doesn't happen like that, but that's.
Okay. Any other questions?
Another question. So this is in fact a machine wash, not a hand wash?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Hours of operation?
So our typical hours of operation is we like fuel from 6 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. And we'd like our wash from 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. That's our typical request.
Number of employees?
It varies drastically, but I've done the math many times. Our typical employees count is 12.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Commissioner?
So I'm counting 26 cars in the stack. 12, it seems, in the shaded area, 14 beyond. So plenty of stacking space.
Absolutely. We do this as a worst-case scenario because the question often gets asked, what happens, how many can you ultimately fit?
Okay. The gate system, so they pay for the car washes at those entry gates, is that correct?
If you're doing what we call a ride-through, which means you're staying in the car, which is really about 15 to 20% of our customers, so it's really a pretty small amount, but that is where you pay, it's like an ATM, put in your credit card, pick your wash. A lot of people will get an RFID that will, by joining a club, and you don't even have to put in a credit card, you just pull up, it reads your tag, it says, okay, you get a wash, Mr. Whomever, and go ahead.
And the other entry that isn't gated, what is that for?
So that's the traditional, that is what most of the customers will actually use. I suspect that probably 2 of the lanes that will probably not use the ATM type machine at one of the lanes, that we're showing it. And that's where the typical customer, and they actually get out about right here. They'll leave the car, and then one of our employees actually drives it on. So
What's the purpose of that? Why do some ride through and some get out?
So the people who ride through, I should have explained that. People who ride through are people who only want the outside of their car cleaned. So there are 100 reasons why people might want that. They've got a sleeping baby, their car is too dirty, they don't want anyone in it. You hear that all the time. We say, we're a car wash, we can handle it. About 85% of our customers do want the inside. They want the vacuum, they want the inside towel dry of the windows, or cleaning the windows. The folks who stay in, they get an exterior towel dry, so they're just the exterior customers. And the more traditional 80 or so %, they will go into one of these finishing spaces. They won't be in the car at the time. Our employees will take the car, pull it into the finishing spaces where the teams will do the towel dry, vacuum, whatever other services they bought.
So that precedes my next question, which is that a ride-through customer who is only going through self-service is not then using the vacuums.
They are not using the vacuums, no. No. They are just getting a towel dry and waving goodbye.
All right, another question, totally different.
Yes.
Why I'll ask our staff also, but why such a beautiful finish on the entire station property, both gas and car wash, facing every direction but south? The south elevation is particularly unattractive. It's as though you are treating the south elevation, busy though the street might be, and much in our neighborhood as it might be, as though it is the backyard, the alley, the unattractive side not to be looked at.
So
But yet it will be.
We put a row of windows, we put some treatment on, and we did this pop-out with exactly that question in mind, rather than doing a flat wall to give some relief to the elevation. The truth is, you have to have a long straight line at the back of a tunnel, because our car wash is, 118, actually, I think it's 118 feet long. And by adding this pop-out, and we also have actually, I've got a
Right here.
picture I can show. There.
I have the picture for it.
Switch. Thank
So I'm
you.
assuming you have it in the
I need all kinds of help when it comes to computer stuff. Okay. So when we look at the church, and this is the best shot, so we think this is a material change here. Then we've got the windows here and the pop out there, and with the couple of levels of the relief up there, down there. We like it. Our architect likes it.
Well, let me interject. The Appearance Commission reviewed this, didn't they?
Yes, they
And
did.
they approved it.
Yeah.
So, with changes.
Are there any changes to this elevation?
There's a signage.
I have the one,
With the picture graphic, yeah,
that's not the right one?
we gave you one that was transferred.
Oh, because this is, maybe it'll look better.
We changed it, but this kind of came last minute.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm sorry.
think they made it into your packets. So this is, oops.
Oh, we got to switch it back.
So this is
The new one,
Yeah.
so
So, We've got a different material here. We've got this blue icon here. So the change in the sign is, and I'm going to mess it up. One of these, the suggestion was to, or the request was to only have the icon, and the other one to only have the word. I'm probably doing it the wrong
On
way.
this elevation, it was, right, Carrie, just the circle.
Okay, yeah, so the circle here, the word here, and we do get this, we do have the windows in the back, we do have a little bit of relief on the angles right there, and the different material.
So you received favorable comments from the Appearance Commission on that
We
elevation?
did.
Okay, I think, let's move on.
The landscaping that's in front of that wall, that's not a big red.
Oh,
Yes, Commissioner
that's,
Berman.
I'm sorry, that's a really good point. We do have a ton of landscape that we're showing. And there's also, though we're gonna move it, a little bike station that we're putting in for a bike fix-it station, which is the name I've dubbed for it, which I guess is what we're calling it. And that's something that we're putting in for folks on the bike trail to go ahead and fix their bikes.
Commissioner Berman has a question.
Yes, sir.
First of all, what brand gas is it?
So this, we are intending to have Waterway branded gas here. So it is a private label. It's our gas, and we will have at least one, maybe. This is something new because, frankly, we were tired of the major branding. We're Waterway. We're not BP. We're not Phillips 66. We're not any of the people we've co-partnered with in the past. We're Waterway, so we are going with the Waterway branded gas. And we think that on the canopy and on the fuel dispensers, we can present a single clean image rather than having, let's call it BP, having a big green stripe, which makes no sense based on anything else we have on site. So it's going to be our private label.
Okay, and delivery hours of gas and other delivery trucks for supplies for the car wash and the store, what are the hours of delivery?
So our typically fuel delivers either early in the morning or late in the evening. Let's call it 6 o'clock or so in the morning or 9 o'clock or so at night. Because it's our brand of fuel and we are going to be contracting directly, that's going to be up to us to tell what they're, to tell our drivers when to come. And that's something, even with our major branded stores in other cities, they'll always deliver it when you ask. Fuel delivery is gravity fed, so there aren't pumps, there aren't any of those things, but there's obviously a truck. And we don't want the truck there during business hour, heavy business hours, because they get in the way. So that's why it's typically early or late, but it's not 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not something that we would approve of. So I would say, it's that 6 to 7 or that 8 to 10 when we're going to be very slow anyway, typically, would be the hours.
Delivery area on the site?
So the tank farm currently is shown up here, or it moved once. But what we would expect is, and we've done an auto turn based on, is that the delivery truck would come in, you're right, drop their fuel here, go back up around the canopy, or pull out here, and that would be the typical route.
well into the elbow of the site, it's not on the outer.
Yeah, so it's
on the Grosse Pointe side, for example, nearest to the rest of
yeah. So we're showing the tank farm, and thank you for pointing that out.
Would that be true of any other supply trucks that are coming?
So we don't really get a terrible amount of deliveries. We get some convenience store deliveries. They tend to come middle of the day, but and they'll just pull in there and drop their totes and be gone. We do get some deliveries of car wash soaps and detergents, but that tends to be in a pickup truck or a small van. Most of our deliveries, we don't get 18-wheeler deliveries. I can't say never, but not often. It's mostly sort of the smaller, you've seen the Frito-Lay style van or the Coca-Cola or the Pepsi-Cola van. Those come and they'll just pull right in here, make their drop, and get out of here because they don't want to hang out.
Any other questions? If not, I'm going to,
I have just one question.
quick,
Can you point out the convenience store, please?
Absolutely. So the convenience store, here is the front door, and then the convenience store is basically here. This is a waiting area for the oh, perfect, that's even better. Convenience store here, waiting area for the customers. We also have an exterior waiting area, a porch. We're proposing cashier there. The customer comes in right here, walks in, buys some chips or drink or a greeting card, because that's what people love from us, and pay, and then go.
So the convenience store deliveries will be, that's why when you circled your wand at that one spot, it's about the same place as the tank farm. For the Frito-Lay trucks and those trucks, they're all in that same
They're just-
area. They're tucked into the elbow. Okay,
Yeah.
great, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, do you have anything else to offer before I ask the staff to present its report?
No, I just appreciate
Okay.
everybody's time and questions.
Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Sit down and we'll call you back up after the
Great.
staff report. And Steve, you gonna do a tag team here, Steve?
Before Steve starts, there's a question about the noise coming out of a car wash. At one time, we only had the belt-driven ones, or the conveyor type, and so then we opened it up to box car washes and other types of car washes. And before that happened, staff was asked to go out and check car washes throughout the area. So we went to all the different suburban communities and stood outside the door of them with sound meters. And to tell you the truth, we couldn't tell any difference when the doors opened and didn't open with the background noise of traffic going by. It was a wash, basically. Oh,
A pun on words, I guess.
All right, so I didn't write all of these reports, but I'm going to, so we don't keep swapping
Are you gonna
staff members
present
out.
all the reports,
I
Steve?
guess I'm going to present all the reports very briefly. So the first one is the zoning map amendment. As you know, we've been eliminating the B1 zone with every single request. It's not a zone that's useful to us anymore. So the recommendation is to go to B3, and that's very similar to the zoning that's up and down Skokie Boulevard. The subdivision, this is just our fiduciary duty to approve the plat. Mike, are there any notable conditions on any of these? Oh, we have a revision, right?
So with the subdivision case, we're cleaning it up because it's on multiple subdivisions and.
Just for the record, this is case 2017-53P.
Yes. So the property's on 14 parcels, as the petitioner mentioned, and those parcels span multiple subdivisions. So we're required to actually do a brand-new one-lot subdivision. As part of that subdivision, we're also requiring 2 dedications. Yeah. One of which is shown on the plat as a 5-foot dedication along Grosse Point Road. So the sidewalk along Grosse Point Road on the east side right now, it's 5-foot wide sidewalk, but it's also has obstructions throughout it. We've got light poles, we've got fire hydrants. So we want to get some additional land reserved so that if there's a project on Grosse Point Road in the future, we can get this infrastructure moved off of the sidewalk so we can have 5 feet clear. So if somebody's coming through in a wheelchair or a stroller, it's much easier to get down that portion of the street. A dedication that's not shown is along Church Street, and I believe we're requesting, how many feet was that? 3-foot wide right-of-way dedication. So this existing sidewalk is going to be widened into a multi-purpose path as part of the overall bike plan in the area. And so that path is going to be expanded to the north onto a portion of this property. And in order to put that path entirely within the Church Street right-of-way, we do need additional dedication of land along the southern portion of Lot 1. And that is included in the staff recommendation for both those dedications.
Okay, case 54 is the site plan approval. There's really nothing very much for me to add to this. other than some things that were requested to be changed. They did request 5 items of relief, and I'll go through those shortly. And just for clarification, so the renderings that you got of the facade, they did not include, it's just the architecture, so it doesn't show the landscaping that would be in front of it. So they also gave us more orthographic ones that showed different views, but they also didn't show the landscaping, so we didn't include them in your packet because I think at that point it was going to get confusing and not represent the site properly. We will get that adjusted before it goes to the village board for both of those. And the plans that you were given on the facades were the ones that went to the Appearance Commission. They did give us updated ones, but it was too close to when your packets had to go out. So I will put those up there when the time comes.
So the trees that are shown there, are those existing trees or are those new trees to be planted? 2, 4, 6, I count 7.
You're talking about
On the parkway? Yep.
Those are existing, so they're fairly large. All right. Looks like we got 18 inches. These are the diameters.
So those are existing trees that
They're
we are.
large, yeah. They're between 18 and 24, 12 and 24 inches.
So the new landscaping that you're describing that we
Is-
don't have in our package
Is on the building. Along
against the building.
Yeah, the ground, the foundation plantings.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Okay.
going to be,
Covering up some of that wall.
yes.
That I
The-
found-
the lower
that I found
portion that's
objectionable.
below the windows.
Okay.
Is there currently sidewalk along Skokie Boulevard?
I believe there is sidewalk on Skokie Boulevard.
And that will remain?
We're requesting that part of it be adjusted so that it's all in line. So the part that was in front of the existing funeral home was actually shifted towards the street. You know, we accept carriage walks when there's no other space. The busier the road, the more I want people further away. So one of the requests, is to realign the sidewalk. So there's a jog in the sidewalk right here. We want it to be straight all the way down the property line. And that's for pedestrian safety and other things. So that is item 1B. Item 1A is just to verify that, so the petitioner had mentioned a rather lengthy list of things that came from IDOT. None of these streets are in our control. So we just want to make sure that they comply with all of the things that were in the letter from IDOT. And then we also had an older floor plan. The Appearance Commission kind of shrunk back the height and the length of the wall. Carrie, is that correct? I'm sorry. This blue wall got adjusted down and this way?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's smaller, it's not as prominent. That needs to be adjusted on the site plan. Landscaping plans, there's just a tree change. We just need a more specific list. We need detail on the bike rack. We are requesting that the bike rack, they have this bike fixing station. The original location for it was here. And we're requesting that it be moved here so that there's better access. I want the people crossing the car tunnel on the way in, not on the way out, because the people coming out are not going to be able to see anyone who's crossing who wants to go to the convenience store, and they're okay with that change. And the last have to do with the signage. So let's go over the relief very briefly. So for the people that are in the audience, these are some things that are in our code that they're asking to not quite follow the rules for. So I'll go over those very, very briefly. The first is to allow a second ground sign. So usually on sites that are below a certain size, you're allowed one ground sign. This happens to be a through lot, so it has different locations. So they're requesting a ground sign on this side and on this side. At this particular location, that's fine. They're both equally both fronts. The second one is to allow a wall sign facing a parking lot. Normally, wall signs are allowed to face a street. In this case, they put the landscape side of the building on the side where the bicycle path is going to be. So they want to put the sign on this side. That's very common. And in this situation, it's a triangle, so it's a kind of a weird site also. The third one is to allow more than one ground sign facing Grosse Point Road. And this has got to do with, again, wayfinding, because people are coming, you can't get in from both directions, so when they're getting around, and the same thing on Skokie Boulevard. The last one had to do with the surface area of a sign being more than 20% of the accent wall. And at this point, I am going to put up the renderings to kind of explain what we're asking for here. So there's a lot of signage on this on this building. So there's a wall sign here facing, and then there's this blue accent wall, which has the same thing with the word and the logo at both locations. The same thing is on the back of that wall. So there's a lot of the word waterway all over the place. This is the north side of the building. And here again, we've got the same thing. We've got the waterway sign. This is the Church Street side, and then it's also right here. So you're going to see that twice. We don't think you need to see the word waterway twice right next to each other, so that's too much. So we're not, we are not approving the increase of the 20%, and then we have a corrective measure for that.
Is the corrective the removal of one of those?
Oh, yes, yes.
So the architectural element of the vertical that sticks off from the building, that the word is written in the vertical.
Right.
The architectural element remains, but not.
All you're going to see is the blue circle on the blue element on both sides of the wall.
Are
Yes,
they front or back lit?
They're internally lit.
Can you tell us the bike fixing station? As a biker, I'm curious what that means.
Yeah, I will let the petitioner talk about that. The one other change that we did request is so at this one, oh, east brick elevation. Anyway, one of the waterway words is also disappearing. So there'll be the logo, and then there'll be the waterway, but there won't be the circle next to the waterway on one side and then the circle next to the circle. So anyway, they're okay with that. And then other questions, we'll get back to the one about the fix-it station. Yes.
I know you're going to tell me that it's inherent in the ordinances and what have you, but I thought we agreed that when food is being sold, and whether it's packaged or prepared, and also with any automotive, that we would address trash cans, and also the requirement that they be emptied every 4 hours on the requirements.
The trash can things are conditions. Oh, are they, which are they in your case, Carrie? Are they in mine?
There are none of them on the ones you sent us.
14 is the,
Just to explain, the code requires that a trash can be at each pump island, and that there be a trash can at the front door to the convenience store where food is being sold. Just recently,
that's part of the regular village code, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
And-
maybe that's why I didn't
And
put
so
it in
you
this
may
one.
not see it in the ordinance because Corporation Counsel's office has been looking at these special uses and site plan approvals. And unless you ask for it specifically to be in there, they've been taking out standard code conditions. They don't want them repeated.
That are redundant.
Yes.
I thought this was one we talked about a year or so ago, that it was going to make the exception that we were going to put them in. So I'll be happy to address that with Corporation Counsel, but I'd like to see it in.
Okay. Well, if it's a standard condition that's already part of the code, I don't think that would necessarily be a problem. I can't remember. Maybe that is what happened. I know that they've been not liking us to repeat things that are already laws.
Yeah, Commissioner, I believe that, the requirement that they have a trash receptacle at the pump islands, I think that should be sufficient.
No, the other thing is the agreement is that when packaged food was being sold and/or prepared food, there had to be a trash facility at the door.
That's already in the code.
That's already there. There will be there.
Okay.
And then there was the 4 hour.
The 4 hour for emptying every 4 hours.
And
Is that
and
also in the
policing the
code,
area.
Pete?
And policing the entire
It's
property.
in the code, but you can put it back. specifically.
So the 4-hour one and the policing for trash?
Yes.
Okay, let me just make sure there's nothing else in the 2 special use cases that we haven't covered already. Actually, Carrie, is there anything else I need to talk about in those? You could do them real fast? Yeah.
I have a question about stormwater detention. Is that you or is that?
Oh, boy. Stormwater?
Stormwater underground, or is stormwater?
Let Carrie-
Okay, sorry, Carrie.
We'll get.
Did you ask for the reports to be made?
Did I request that they be accepted
don't
to the
know.
record already?
Yes, you
Oh,
did.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, for all of them?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So the auto fuel station, the conditions on page 4 are, for the most part, standard, but we just need to make sure that at least 2 employees are on the premises from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., since there's a convenience store co-located with this fuel station. And the attendant must always have a clear view of the fuel dispensing area, and have a system installed that allows communication between persons of each dispensing area and the employee at the fuel control. And then during the hours of operation, air and use of equipment for tire inflation, use of a tire pressure gauge, and fluid and equipment for washing vehicle windows, water and use of water container for filling radiators, restroom facilities must be provided free of charge. And charging a fee for these services is prohibited. And the canopy is provided over the fuel dispensing area, so that needs to stay. And the pump islands and fuel tanks shall be removed upon the closing of the auto fuel station whenever that occurs in the maybe
Is there a
distant
provision in there
future.
for a handicap assistance?
Not in our standard conditions. Is there something in the
Or is that a
village
state
code?
requirement?
Self-service versus full service.
Like a button that's on the fuel.
Right, if a person
For
needs
assistance.
an attendant to help him pump the gas if he or she is handicapped.
Yeah.
So, 2 things. We will, I'm sorry, this is Mike Goldman again from Waterway. During car wash hours, we will have an attendant whose job is to stay under the fuel canopy, and that's one of the first things that they learn is to help anybody who wants to help with their fuel being dispensed. Plus, there are standard ADA-approved signs that we have that says ask with help on either the fuel dispensing or anything on our site. So we are pretty cognizant of that and have addressed that at all of our locations.
Yeah, Skokie is kind of unique with gas stations. We require that the gas station provide free air pumps and water.
We've got 20 locations. We got free air at all 20. We don't believe in charging for air. That's everybody's right. Thanks.
And then also they meet the minimum lot size for when there's a car wash co-located with an auto fuel station. And so I guess item 10 in the report would be to address the trash per pump and the 4-hour emptying of garbage and surveying the site for trash cleanup. So that would be for the car fuel. Do we want to jump to the parking determination? Do you want me to?
Oh, I skipped that.
Okay.
We determined the number of parking spaces is
13.
13.
Okay.
So that is something you're going to make a final vote on and will not go to the village board.
Okay. Now we're on 57P, which is the car wash itself. Engineering had a few comments. The building sewer permit shall only be issued, and a sewer connection shall only be permitted if it's demonstrated that the downstream sewerage facilities, including sewers, pump stations, wastewater treatment facilities, have sufficient reserve capacity to adequately address this use. And then addressing IDOT's issues and subsequent submittals to IDOT and the village, which was covered earlier. And then we covered the traffic There was a comparison for the Northbrook location, and currently the peak hours for Northbrook is running about 30 to 70 vehicles per hour, and the car wash has the capacity to have 120 vehicles per hour, so it's roughly half of the full capacity. So I feel there's a reasonable buffer there to handle the traffic volume. Let's see. And a total of 14 vehicles can stack before it starts maybe impacting the fuel pumps or parking spaces just north of like the entrance. Based on the Northbrook case, the maximum number of cars that they were seen stacked was 10, so we should have a buffer of 4 stacking for the entrance to the car wash. And we just request that measures be taken to ensure any remaining water dripping for the cars after they are washed does not impact travel either on the site or in the public right-of-way. And some of the conditions specific to the car wash itself, any outdoor sound systems or car wash noise shall at all times maintain levels that are compliant with the village code. And the 13 parking spaces, and the no washing of vehicles from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., outside storage and display of items for sale or lease, tools, equipment of vehicles, parts is prohibited. Vehicles and boats are prohibited to be sold, advertised for sale, or other than operational licensed vehicles owned by the establishment remain outdoors on the property for more than 10 days, except at vehicle dealers, so we won't have that at this location. And then the Plan Commission is to determine the appropriate number and location of drying spaces. The quick towel dry will occur at the car wash exit and/or at one of the 10 vacuum stations. So there's at least 10 plus possibly the space in between the exit and the vacuum spaces. And the operation of the use must minimize excessive water collecting outside the building openings to the wash bay and in the adjacent public rights-of-way. So that's it for the car wash.
Any questions of the staff?
One quick question. We have a condition for hours of operation of the car wash. We don't have a similar condition for the gas station, and it would be okay with us then if it became a 24-hour station. Is that correct?
Is 24?
We generally do not restrict the hours of any business in town unless there's a specific need to do that. Was that hours was based off the hours that they gave us, or was that?
Well, those are car wash hours.
So this is already in the car wash hours are already in the village code.
That's fine.
Yeah, we don't, unless there's some kind of specific concern or externality, it is not generally our recommendation ever to restrict the hours of a business.
I'm not being critical. It's just if the, so we're restricting the car wash hours. The petitioner told us they intend to operate, I think, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. for the gas station, but in fact, if they wanted to go 24 hours, it would be all right with us.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff?
Just to answer
Go ahead.
the question of, is there going to be water detention? It's full water detention, underground tanks in some areas. However, along the edges, you can see there's permeable brick pavers. So that's stripped, and also along Skokie Boulevard. And meets the new MWRD standards.
So we expect drainage to all drain toward those permeable.
Or to catch basins, which we haven't seen yet, but they should be in there.
Okay.
Good.
Thanks.
Okay.
Is it time to ask all staff questions or not?
Staff
Yes.
questions, yes.
Okay.
And in up to bat, we have the fix-it station, and was there one other thing? I just want to make sure I don't forget anything.
I think
This is an economic development question. While the design has been carefully considered, and I'm pleased with it, except perhaps that wall, but I'll let it go. Was there economic development concern in the village staff about the proximity of this new car wash to our already existing Turtle Wax car wash and to the new car wash that was just rebuilt half a mile south on Grosse Point Road? That's one question. And the other question is, does the addition of another gas pumping station in this area duplicate other gas pumping that we already have immediately south on Skokie Boulevard, that being Dempster, Maine, Oakton? So it's an economic development question for our staff. What did you consider about car washes and gas
Right,
stations.
so we never, since I've been here, put any restrictions on competition. That is the free market activity. That is not the purpose of zoning. To specifically address your concerns, or your question, this gas station will be replacing a gas station. You're going to get a case, which has been filed but not scheduled yet, to replace the Shell with the Wendy's. So that gas station is going, so it's a zero sum for that particular situation. This site is much larger and will be laid out much nicer than the very tight site where the gas station is in the northeast corner of Grosse Pointe. The situation with the adjacent car washes, that is what that is. The one car wash I hear is one of them is having some difficulties anyway. That's regardless of whether or not this is here. So there's some site constraints at that one location. But again, that's up to the business operators to decide whether or not that site improves based off this new additional service.
But we make no we have no staff discussion or recommendation
It is not
about the quantity of.
From a policy perspective, we do not get involved in that. We don't.
Okay.
If they want to have 6 bedding stores on 6 different corners.
I mean, look, here, I'll give you a good example.
Yes.
When we were getting pharmacies with the convenience stores at every single corner, everyone's like, how are all these going to stay open? Well, you know what? None of them have closed. So they've become the new corner store. It's just, that isn't what we had there before. The mattress stores, everyone said, why do we have so many? Now they're starting to close. But the market is taking care of that. So, we let the market do that. What we do is we regulate the set of uses that go at specific locations, and when we're asked, we evaluate those at their specific locations.
One other question is totally not that. This has to do with traffic. Southbound Grosse Pointe can make a left turn then into that entrance?
In, but not out.
That's fine.
Yes.
They should be able to. Okay.
Any other questions to staff?
Right, do you want to ask answer the fix-it question?
Okay, Mr. Golden, if you would come up again, please. Okay, you've heard the staff report. Any comments? Do you have any problems with the recommended conditions in any of the reports that are existing?
We read the reports, we've heard the recommendations. We don't have any comments or concerns on any of them. I believe they were all reasonable. We can meet all of them, and
Okay.
as far as just to jump back, if that's okay for me to answer the question about the bike
Yes,
station?
Commissioner
Yes,
McKay has a question.
okay. So it is a clamp to put your bike up on with the basic bike fixing tools attached on wires, not wires is the wrong term, steel cords. And there's also a little pump to pump up the tires in case you need to get something filled up. It first honestly crossed my mind a couple years ago when I was in Seattle, and I saw a couple of these. I thought they were sort of cool. And then when I found out we were on a bike path, I thought, well, that's something that we could do as part of our sort of community engagement. And that's where that idea came from. And we think they're cool, but we're excited to put it in.
Being a restorer of vintage bikes, I'm all for that.
Okay. And regarding the trash cans, I know that's not a question on, we empty trash cans constantly. People getting their car washed or dumping out their old, whatever, their lunch bags or whatever they're doing, and we get those emptied out. We pride ourselves on keeping an extraordinarily clean site. If you can't keep a clean site, why would someone pay you money to wash their car? Same thing with the restrooms. Can't keep a clean restroom, why in the heck would I go to these guys to wash the car? So that's, however it's written, I'm certain we will more than comply with that.
Thank you.
And just one point of clarification. So the 4-hour rule and that second garbage can rule actually applies to restaurants. So it's a place where food is served, not where food is necessarily purchased.
I don't think that's true. I think what was agreed is anywhere where food is sold, packaged or prepared, that A, there would be a garbage can outside the front door, and B, that the site would be inspected every 4 hours.
Okay, in our standard document, we have in brackets for our own notes, restaurants only, we'll amend that. If that's the case, we will amend it so that we include it from now on. And I can put those conditions into the 54 case for the site plan approval. if everyone agrees to that.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Okay. Thank you, Steve, thank you, Carrie, thank you, Mike. At this time, is there anyone in the audience who who have a question or comment on this case, please come forward. Nobody? Okay. Yes, please come
go
up.
ahead.
Now, bear in mind that if you, later on, if you have a question, you're more than welcome to ask that question at the board meeting. You know, if you've decided that you have a question that just all of a sudden you thought about and forgot to do it today. Yes, ma'am. Could I have your name, please, and your address?
My name is Rita Blinstein. I live in the 9242 Grosse Pointe. I'm a resident there. And I didn't have a chance to participate in today's meeting with, you know, with the representative of the company who's gonna build that unit and everything around us. But I do have a concern because listen all this representation of both sides on the Skokie Village and the whoever is seeking the new property build. I didn't hear much about the residents. Nobody noticed that we have a hospital next to us, and the Skokie, Grosse Pointe, and this area, including the Skokie Boulevard and the Grosse Pointe, most of those two streets going to the hospital. We have a huge traffic there at certain time, and it's 24/7. It doesn't depend on when the big trucks are coming with the fuel or with the supply or the car wash. It's just there. Also, when the sidewalk will be extended or remodeled on the Grosse Pointe side, on the property, on the new property, how many lines will remain on the Grosse Pointe each directions? Because again, we have a few buildings on the other side that people, just residents there. And we do know that the cars are coming to our parking lots in and out, and this is just across of that new entrance to the gas station. How is going to be managed? How much traffic we will have? And times, because we live there for long enough to be witness that this is a busy street, and the cars are going both directions all the time. And it could be impact that the people could not turn. It could be confused because there is not much regulations there on the sign as far as the traffic signs. So it could be impact of the accidents, different impact area, plus the emergency cars going back and forth to the hospital. That's one question. How is going to be managed, how the board view that issue. And the other one that I wanted to ask, we do have the reports on a health issue, that the people who live next to the different facilities that require the gasoline and the cars are driving cars that make air less healthy for the people who live nearby. So it's not just dropping the property price, it's also dropping and affects the health issues. We have many older residents. Next to us is a housing authority building. Most of the people are not so healthy. And we have a little children live in our 3 buildings that facing the Grosse Pointes, plus also the elderly people live there. But it affects everyone. It doesn't really depend on the age. So we do have some concerns. We do have some research and articles that suggest that issue should be taken very seriously. We didn't hear much about that. I don't know if it was already discussed on the meeting with the members of our community, but nevertheless, this meeting doesn't really represent the answer for those questions. And this is something that we would like to know. How those big trucks with the supply of the gasoline will actually get in there, because this street is not very wide. You just really have, especially when the weather is bad, it's a lot of snow there, a lot of ice there, And this particular block between the Grosse Point, between the church and the Skokie Boulevard and the Grosse Point is really the most busiest place on the whole street. Because again, you know, having this experience for many years, that I lived there for 15 years, and I know all this area. I live in Skokie almost 30 years, and I know that area inside out. This is very important piece of the street that has to be observed, not for only from the property point of view, like what we're gonna build, how it's gonna look, how the wall's gonna look, what's the color is gonna be on a sign, but from the perspective of the residents that live nearby. And I don't know, people cannot maybe raise their voices because, again, there's many elderly people, they cannot participate in the meetings, they can't really come. We do sign the petitions. We have a list of people who are objected to that project, and we still have to know, like the representative of the company said that they have reports and statistics that property doesn't drop, and something else like very positive about this project. I would like to know a little bit more details about how they come up with these statistics. Where's these supportive documents that shows that this is really truth? Because the business is the business, and the people do look at that from the business point of view. They don't really live nearby. They just do the business there, then come and go. And obviously, Village of Skokie should be taking care of the residents of the Skokie equally towards the business matters, what we also want. We do want something. We do want the gasoline station. We want the car wash. We want the convenience stores. We have at 7-Eleven, we have 5 different gas stations. We have 3 different car wash around us. And this is a small area. It's very busy. It's a lot of different businesses around, many stores, many other type of businesses. But people live inside of that. We are not really close, and we are exposed to all those things that need to be taken into consideration.
Okay. Admittedly, Grosse Point Church and Skokie Boulevard are very busy streets, and they're our main arterial streets. Now, I don't believe personally that the carbon footprint that the waterway project will be any significant impact, more so than traffic just driving back and forth up and down the street. Now, as far as emergency vehicles concerned, you're right. With the police, with the fire station just down the street on Grosse Point, their ambulance service is constantly out. But they do get through traffic. They have sirens, they have lights, and people do move aside for them. So I don't see any impediment, any of the traffic that this waterway project will produce that would impede that emergency traffic. Now, as far as the gasoline goes, in the summertime, they do put the additive in there to reduce the vapor from gasoline from vaporizing too quickly or too much in the summertime. That's why your the price of gas goes up a little bit in the summertime, because they put that additive in. Yeah, that's what they do. So,
Why don't we let the petitioner?
I understand, but I just want to just answer your question or try to clarify your question. And as far as the property value goes, it's their opinion. It's not going to, it's not a standard. They don't have research on that. It's just their opinion.
Okay, so it could be objected.
Right.
Otherwise, because
subjective.
if there is no significant research and there's any specific documents to support this issue, that we can say no as far as they can say yes. I mean,
Exactly.
it's not supported in either way.
As far as property values go, yes.
What I'm saying, yeah.
Yes.
But as far as the health concern, what we have a research, and we submitted these documents to the board
Yeah, we have that.
before. Yeah, and so it does have significant data that suggests this issue. How the board view that? There is any discussion was involving the last one?
As far as I know, the reports indicate that I don't think there's a major impact with the site.
Because what I know, like the other places that we have a gas station around the area, none of them are close enough as this close to the a residence area, like to the building, the actual building where the people live. It's either in the corner, next to the different buildings, or something else.
At Main and Skokie Boulevard, you have a gas station almost right next door to the residential, right next door.
Well, across those two, it's like a bank, it's a convenience store and a restaurant. It's not something that people actually live. It's all these three corners on this Skokie Boulevard in Maine don't have the residential building close enough. They don't. It's like three different kind of businesses there. It's a car repair, it's a bank, and this is a restaurant. So it's not really something.
I was initially concerned, and I would like the petitioner to address this, but when I saw where the pumps were related to the buildings to the residential buildings on Grosse Pointe, or even the residential building, the singular building on Skokie Boulevard, I became convinced that the pumps were further away because of the width of the street of Skokie Boulevard across from the multifamily housing on the northeast corner of Skokie Boulevard, and then far away from the Grosse Pointe housing that you live in, and that is the elderly and disabled housing. So I thought that the pumps were a fair distance away from that. But I would like the petitioner to address that, because I think a lot of the concerns have to do with vapors directly adjacent to a gas station, and I didn't see the adjacency here.
Well, it's gonna be running cars, that's number one, we understand that. So the cars come and go, so that adding the air pollution to the fact. Plus, there's any codes exist, how far those things supposed to be from the residential actual buildings where the people live? Because the people live on the first floor, which is right there, and this is one of the first buildings, is just facing it's literally there. It's not just like, I live in the middle building, but it's still nearby. So if there's any codes exist, how far this equipment should be located from the actual. There
are no standards for that.
So it can be next door, let's say like.
We do have a station right next door to residential.
Is it maybe time to review that information based on the medical facts and the suggestion of the science,
If it becomes a hazard, we'll review it. But
Well,
right
how
now,
will
it
it
hasn't become a hazard.
Well, that's something that has to be, investigated, I think, because
Well,
it doesn't come.
Perhaps you may want to, turn your concerns or express your concerns to the EPA.
But I wouldn't mind if the petitioners would address this issue. They probably have studied this very issue of
Yeah, hopefully-
vapors and gas
hopefully
and
they
gas
have a
stations
support and
adjacent to residential
information
areas.
about that, because we would like to know.
Okay.
Again, as why I am asking, because it wasn't not much words from the commissioners about the actual residential concern that was addressed before, and we've been waiting to have our voices, heard about this thing that we are all concerned about.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there, before you,
Yeah.
is there anyone else in the audience who wish to comment or have a question on this case? Yes, please, come on up. Come up, sir. It's okay.
My question
Could you have your name and
is
address, please?
a little bit.
Sir,
about,
sir,
My,
please. Could I have your name and
my name
address?
is Victor Flux. I'm the resident of the same buildings in Rita.
Okay.
And my question is about the dominating winds in our area. No, just this one. Because we have a wind running this direction. It's just will bring us all the smell of the fuel station directly along our buildings. Is there any way to protect the buildings from this strong, very popular wind?
Well, no, there isn't. I mean, I don't think that by the time that the wind picks up the vapor and reaches the building, I think it'd be dissipate enough where
It's
it
a-
wouldn't be harmful.
It is a corridor between the
I
buildings
understand that.
on one side and the fence of the stores on the other side. There is no way to any smell to go anywhere else. It's run directly to this corridor and will supply us with the fuel smell for all three buildings. You understand?
I see your concern, but I don't anticipate any problems with that.
Okay, if you do think that's not.
Okay.
Yeah, can you write your name and address here, please? Thanks.
Is there anyone else, please? In the audience? No? Okay, Mr. Golden, would you like to come up and address these concerns?
So I'm going to start with the traffic. So I'll place this right here. Good. As I noted, we did have to, we were required by IDOT to do a traffic study. And in the traffic study, one of the things that the traffic engineer did is not only use the ITE, the International Traffic Institute standards, they also actually went to our Northbrook location and counted traffic. They sat there with the counter and counted. And this is what they showed as their expectations of what, of increased traffic at the site. So they're showing during the morning peak hours, they're showing 22 new cars. Afternoon peak hours, 27 new cars. That's on Skokie. And then 38 during Saturday peak. And then we did the same things over at the intersection of Skokie and Grosse Pointe and Church Street. And you can see the total increase in cars on site is really at most 2% at the intersections. It is a very small impact, understanding, of course, for that it's already very busy, so one more car might feel like an impact. But if you think about 21 cars, 27 cars, even doubling that, or going up to 60 new cars, new trips an hour, that's just one new car a minute, and on a busy street that's carrying several thousand cars an hour, it's by their reckoning, that is a very minimal impact. So that is the traffic. As far as the vapors, and it's hard for me to address the wind flow, but the vapors, we have obviously putting in brand new pumps, brand new state-of-the-art. And the way the pumps work is, and everyone's seen this, you might not know what it is that there is a device on the actual handle which brings in the vapors. It actually brings the vapors back in, pulls the vapors back in, and that is actually recirculated into fuel, because vapors, what are vapors? That's fuel that just has vaporized, but that in fact is fuel. So I would posit that if one goes by a modern gas station with the double wall tanks that we'll put in, the double wall lines we put in, the newest tank leakage detections, that there is a minimal, I would say none, but I don't want to overstate it. You just don't smell gas. It's just not like when you went to an old station. And frankly, when you went to old stations, most of the time you were smelling oil. Generally, people were smelling oil and the other fluids from the old stations that have, well, still do, but they're a dying creature right now. The stations with the garages attached. That's where much of that fluid scent came from. So it's a great distance. I'd also point out that the Shell that is planning on closing is, I would have to actually draw it out. I believe it is as close to, or nearly as close to the residents as what we're showing. And it was not by accident that we put the fuel dispensers over there. And of course, we've got this several story tall office building between. That is to keep the bulk of our activity as far as on the main street, as far away from the residential areas as possible. The final issue is the health issue, and that's going to be difficult for me to give an answer to because I'm trying to think of a correct way to put it. I would say the health issue has been studied. There's certainly studies that say there might be some limited risk. There are many more studies, not only industry studies, I wish I could provide one, I don't have it, that suggests that this is not a risky environmental impact on people's health, mostly because it's highly regulated. It's not just as when I met with the gentleman and the other members who were able to make it this afternoon, it's not just us saying, hey, we're doing a good job, don't bother us. We're regulated by the Illinois EPA, we're regulated by weights and measures, we're regulated by the fire marshal. We are a highly regulated industry, and it's not one of these things where no big deal if you're a little bit off or if you're leaking a little bit of fuel. It doesn't work that way, and the regulations are followed. If we miss a checklist, if we miss something that we're supposed to miss, they can shut us down. That has not happened to us because we're very careful about those things, because we aren't a one-off. We have a corporate person who's in charge of environmental. Our people on site have environmental training as necessary. Then finally, and it's a good point that was made, I didn't address the neighbors as closely in my presentation today because I spoke to them earlier today. I understand other people were working, so that's my mistake. I should have brought that up. We are absolutely a community-based company. We work with neighborhood associations all the time. We work with charitable associations all the time. As I said earlier today, we don't do radio advertisement. We don't do TV advertisement. What we do is we get to know the people in the surrounding community and get involved with what's important to them. So be it a blood drive, be it a warm jacket drive, a canned food drive, whatever it is, that's what we do, and that's our involvement with the community, and we care deeply about our neighbors because that's the way we work. They're our customers, and we want to make them feel like they're part of our the Waterway. You become a sort of a member of the Waterway family. Believe it or not, it sounds like I'm selling something, but it is something that people feel when the cashier knows your name, when they know about your new dog, when they know about your kids and grandkids, and I guarantee you it happens and no one believes it until they see it. Because everyone's been to gas stations, you don't get those kind of connections. This is different, and so being involved in the community is deeply important. As far as that one final matter, as property values, they're absolutely, I don't have them at hand, but there are absolutely studies that show that a active business increases property values better than an empty lot. And again, got to take my word for it because I can't provide anything at this moment, but I'm happy to provide those later on if someone wants to see them. But that I think that covers the questions. If there are any others, I'm happy to answer them. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think you addressed most of the concerns, but I think maybe the one question I thought I heard her ask is concerns about emergency vehicles and deliveries. And just to reiterate, none of your deliveries will ever block any of the streets. They'll all be taking place on your property, so they're not creating any kind of obstruction, correct?
Absolutely. And just so everyone knows, our plans are certainly reviewed by the fire marshal, by the different emergency services. Anytime you submit a plan, those are some of the people who either respond or don't respond, but they take a look and see, and we have not received concerns. But yeah, these are heavily traveled streets, and certainly we do, even if it's just those small numbers of new trips that I showed. Hey, I can't say that that's nothing, because it's not, but it is very slight. And when you have a business, rather than an empty lot, you are going to have some increases. So I know it's been reviewed, and that is but on site, that's where the trucks will be. That's where any deliveries will occur.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to just address a couple of the physical questions that the petitioner brought up regarding access and
Yes.
other things? So just a few things that I didn't mention verbally but are in the report. Right now, there are multiple points of access here. This is going to be consolidated to one. That's an increase in traffic safety. The driveway, which is currently kind of catty corner from this residential building, is being moved north across from the commercial building. If you want to talk about, traffic impacts, the traffic impact of being in close proximity to a funeral home is probably one of the most extensive kind of traffic impacts if you're talking about blockage, where the entire road is closed down while that is going by. So relative to what was there, this is a much more evenly spaced type of traffic impact. And the fact of the matter is that this is a commercially zoned property. There's going to be a commercial use here regardless. So relative to what is currently allowed to be there, there isn't that much difference, and they gave statistics on that. The last issue is with the spacing of gas stations. I was thinking about, I don't know all the locations, but I would venture to guess that everything east of Skokie Boulevard, the 3 on Toohey, at least 2 on Dempster Street, the 1 on Main, the 1 on Oakton Street, they are immediately abutting residential. They're within way less than 100 feet. Mike, what is the street right of way at Skokie Boulevard? Is it 100 feet? 80 feet. So if this is 80 feet, we're talking hundreds of feet away. And if that is too close relative to the way that the urban form is, we would not have any the gas station would have to be in the middle of Old Orchard Mall to be able to, or in the middle of the industrial park, in order for that distance to be, if we draw a ring around every single place where somebody lives and say you can't be within 1,000 feet of that, there would be no place to get gas. That's just a geography fact of the type of urban environment that we live in. So that's not placing any value judgment on what was said. It's just the spatial nature of the town that we live in. So,
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Okay. Would you come up? You have to come up and comment, please.
Just one additional question, if I may ask. If anybody was already decide or there is no changes, how many lines Grosse Pointe Road will have on that point? Will it be reduced or stay?
right. So Mike had mentioned future changes to the road. That was not meaning to say that the road was going to get narrowed, but what was mean is that if we had the opportunity to redo the sidewalks, that we would have wider sidewalks, and that the things that are currently close to the road, like, could have the potentially to be moved further away, or that the people can move further away from those objects. It was not to intend that there be any reduction in lane widths. I'm sorry, I forgot to address that.
So that's the roadway.
Yeah, at least to my knowledge, there's no reduction in lanes.
Does the village control that part of Grosse Pointe?
No. But what we're doing is we're giving IDOT the opportunity to make pedestrian improvements when the road is up for redesign or reconstruction.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm open for a motion on case 2017-52P, the zoning map amendment.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal.
Okay. Second, Commissioner Marte, thank you.
Second.
We've got a second, sir. Call for the vote. Commissioner Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Paradise.
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati.
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Matei.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Okay. In the case 2017-53P, the subdivision, this includes the requested dedications. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Lexpati, do I have a second? Commissioner Berman, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Paradise,
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati,
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman, Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. In case 2017-54P, this is the site plan approval, and this is with the 5 items of release as described by Steve Marciani. So moved, Commissioner Paradise. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Berman, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Berman?
Aye.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
sorry.
Oh, you didn't?
I thought that, yeah, the amendment for the trash.
Before we vote.
Well, you'd have to
let's-
get Commissioner Paradise to move on it.
Appreciate it if you would.
Aye.
He does agree.
He
So
does
he
agree?
agrees in his motion, and I agree in my
With
second.
the trash amendment, okay.
Yes.
With trash amendment.
Thank you, Steve. And Commissioner Paradise.
Okay, again, this is with the trash amendment. Commissioner Berman again.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Paradise.
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati.
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Matei.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you. Case 2017-55P, this is a special use. Do I have a motion? Commissioner
Moved.
Berman, do I have a second? Commissioner Berman, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Paradise,
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati,
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. In case 2017-50P, parking determination. Now, in parking determinations, we are the final body that will decide on this case. This case will not go before the board. Do I have a motion? Motion approved. Commissioner Lexpati, do I have a second? Commissioner Berman, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Scott Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Paradise,
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati,
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. On case 2017-57P, special use, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Commissioner Berman, do I have a second? Mr. Lexpati, thank you. Okay, and I will call for the vote. Commissioner Scott Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Paradise,
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati,
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. And that has been approved. Now, these cases will have to go before the Board of Trustees for final approval. If you've given us your name and your address, we will notify you when these cases go before them, and you'll also get copies of the report. Any other business before the commission? I see none. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. And good luck.